Welcome to the Heartland Cycling Network. Today's show, I have the pleasure of talking with Rhonda Hall, who happens to be president of the Omaha Peddlers Bicycle Club. So Rhonda, thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to talk about the peddlers.
Yeah, it's good. It's one of what I call the three official bicycle clubs that are in town. There's a lot of riding groups that are out there, but as far as a club is concerned, I mean, there's dues involved, and they do more, let's say, than, let's say, some of those people or groups that just do social rides.
Right.
So how long have you served in your current capacity as president?
Just actually not even a full year.
Okay.
So yeah, I took over about in November, so that's when I kind of came on. So, and I wrote the club newsletter for many years and really enjoyed doing that.
So how long have you been with the club?
I don't really know.
Oh,
I think it's about, I want to say
it's
2009 or something, but
so.
I joined a long time ago, and there were many times where I couldn't really go on any rides just because scheduling, work, things like that, and it took a while to kind of get more involved.
What was your motivation to join the club?
I wanted to meet fellow cyclists. It's funny because I just got back from the Mickelson Trail.
Okay.
And so I went with two of my friends, and we were all kind of texting each other before we went, and we all said, do you have a pedal wrench? Yeah, all three of us were like, yeah, we got a pedal wrench. And we're like, you couldn't find three women in any other group that say that they even had a pedal wrench. So we're like, there's like this thing that, that we all kind of have like interests. You couldn't find three people in a normal population that would even know what a pedal wrench was.
Right,
But so that was kind of funny because we're all like, we all have pedal wrenches.
Well, and I think one of the things that by joining a group and going out on rides, you tend to ask questions.
Yeah.
And you tend to learn from other people. And quite frankly, I know that when somebody asks me a question about bikes, I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I don't
Definitely.
know if that's the same with you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we love to talk bikes. In fact, when we were on the Mickelson, I had to stop and buy new gloves, and my friends were like, "Yeah, we're going to stop at the trail, or we're going to stop at the bike club, bike shop too." And my sister said, "Why?" And we're like, "For fun." My friends were like, "For fun?" She said, "Well, she goes, I guess we have a different idea of fun." So.
Yeah.
But.
Well, and that's the thing. What motivates you for cycling? What do you get out of it?
It's funny. I was thinking back years ago. This is going to date me. I remember when I was a child watching a Marcus Welby episode.
Okay.
And there was a woman on there that could not go outside. She could not feel the breeze on her face, or she would have, a seizure. And I just remember thinking how horrible that is. And there are many times where I'm about to go for a ride, I think about this poor fictional woman thinking, I'm going to go out and chase the breeze because I've got to feel the breeze on my face, because there will be a day where I can't do it anymore. And I just love the idea of being outside and enduring and climbing the hill or whatever and saying you're able to do it. I can remember when I first did my first brand, I remember looking at because like when you bike around town, you don't really know it, but when you're looking at this and you go, oh, I was on this town, and now I'm on this town on the map, and I'm doing it all by bike. I mean, that was kind of a cool feeling.
Yeah.
So.
When did you started biking as a child. When did it become, let's say, more of, I call it a passion as an adult? Is that something that was more recent, or is it something continual?
It was when I was in college, I think, definitely in college. I didn't really want to park. Parking was bad. I went to UNO. So I always just biked to school just because it was easier to park my bike and get there. And then after class, I would go for long bike rides and then go home and do homework. But yeah.
Okay. I know that I get an exhilaration when I go out and ride. I don't care to a certain extent what the weather is like. It's still, if you want to call it, fun. And there's the physical aspect, there's the health aspect out of it. I call it my fitness therapy, somewhat health therapy, mental therapy, and spiritual therapy.
Right,
I get all those things out of bike rides. So a lot of times when I'm out, my wife can expect me to be gone 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I always say that there's my big five. And so my big five is like I want to go places, I want to see things, I want to meet people, I want to have fun. And then I've recently added and eat good food. It can even be mediocre food, and as long as the other four are met, it's okay. So.
Okay, all right, all right. Well, about the Omaha Peddlers, how long have they been around?
55 years. They started in
Wow.
1968, right?
Wow.
And we have members that probably joined a couple of weeks ago, and we probably have members that are been there for 55 years. So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How many members are in the club right now?
I honestly, it's such a fluid number.
Yeah, I know. It changes, but
I
approximately.
really don't know, honestly. I've looked at some of the numbers, and it changes so much. And actually, the membership director has asked me not to say.
Oh, okay.
So I think she feels bad. I'm like, you don't need to feel bad. We have a lot of great numbers. We have great
I think the numbers, perspective. There's a lot of people that are out riding.
Right.
Okay, that are not a member of a club. They don't see the reason to join a club, which is sad because I think you get so much more out of it. The club can offer a lot of different things. Like, for example, let's say, what's some of the benefits of joining the Peddlers?
Well, just recently we did the Wabash ride, and we stay on the Wabash. And one of the guys that joined, he joined simply because he wanted to be able to do the Wabash, and we were able to sag for him and all the other riders, and so that was a good thing that we were able to sag for them.
Yeah. Well, you're talking in terms of cycling. SAG.
Support and gear.
Support and gear. Stuff and gear, support and gear.
Yeah.
Basically, that's one of the things. And the Wabash, if you don't know, is a rail trail.
Right.
And it's packed limestone, and it runs from Council Bluffs actually down past Shenandoah, Iowa. So it's 50 some miles long.
Right, yeah. So it's a good, actually I think it's funny because you're riding on the Wabash sometimes and you're like, oh, is this thing ever over? And then other times you're like, oh, this is so fun. And you can't really tell because it all looks flat.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're uphill, sometimes you're downhill.
Well, there is a little bit of grade. I mean, it's a
Right.
rail trail, 1% to 2% grade.
Yeah.
And I know that from when I've ridden it, just going to Mineola, which is only 9 miles from Council Bluffs, and first half up to Dunfree is going uphill. You can just feel it. Then you can feel that you're going downhill. There really doesn't look like there's any change, but it is noticeable.
I always say that in the old days they must have been like, throw some more coal in, when they're going up the uphill climb. But there's other reasons people don't want to cycle. Sometimes people don't want to cycle alone. They, we have a lot of good fun for a cheap price. It costs $20 to join. So
$20 to join the Peddlers. Okay.
For a full year. And then we have some only member rides, and then we have a lot of other rides like. Our Great American Pie ride is probably our biggest ride.
Okay.
I know you've been on it, and it's a lot of fun. In fact, when I may get thrown out of the Peddlers when I admit this, but when I first joined, I really didn't like pie, and so I might even get tossed out of my family for saying that. But after I went and had like Small's Fruit Farm, had their apple pie a la mode, I was like, yeah. This has some merit,
Well, and you can go on the rides that may take you to a restaurant or some other place. You don't have to eat. You can just still do the ride for the sake of doing the ride with other people.
In fact, that's when I first did it. I called up Sandy Weinberg because that's who was the contact, and I said, "Do I really have to eat all this pie?" And she said, "No."
Yeah.
So
that's the pie ride. You talked about the Wabash weekend, which is over Labor Day weekend. What are some of the other rides that the club does?
We have we have the history ride. That's with Marty Schukert. It's really incredibly interesting. He goes around. He knows the city so well that he's able to kind of talk to how the city was built, or how it just has a lot of interesting facts about the city. The only ride we have left is our Pasta Peddlers Pig Out, which is in a couple of weeks. And actually this year we added a different route too, and it's going to be like a more flatter ride. But then afterwards we go eat pasta. And We have, oh gosh, I wrote it down. The Little Sioux Overnighter.
Okay.
We have the Breezy Hills Wine Ride, the Magnolia Classic. That's usually just for members, but
That's a member only, yeah.
incredibly good, incredibly
That's
fun.
over in Iowa, and you do go into
Right.
the less hills. So
Right.
there's a little bit of climbing that you have to get used to.
Yeah.
So, but if you're riding a bike, there are hills.
Yeah.
Okay. That gets to, let's say, another question. I mean, a lot of people don't like riding hills, but there are some people that have e-bikes. Do you accept riders with e-bikes in your
Of
club?
course, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
They are becoming very popular.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, any rider, any skill, it's totally fine. Yeah. In fact, one of our most popular rides is the Rusty Spokes ride.
Oh, yeah.
And they have people of all sizes, or all different types of bikes, and there's a lot of people with e-bikes. So.
Yeah, that's a weekly ride that the club
definitely.
does.
Thursday mornings at 10.
Thursday morning.
At
So
Quandt.
Rusty Spokes is probably for those people that are rusty. No,
Well,
it's
see,
actually the more
you know
retired.
what? I just wrote a tagline for them. I don't think they know this yet, but I said there's no actual rest, but riding with these folks is a must. So.
Yeah, there you go.
And then afterwards, they sit in the park at Kieran Park and eat peanuts and drink black Coke, and they solve world problems. So
Really?
I
Okay.
don't.
Interesting.
Apparently, nobody's taking our advice, though. So.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What other benefits are there of joining the club?
Well, definitely actually, I was talking about this with one of my good friends, is that one of the reasons we joined was to meet fellow cyclists and to, meet friends, and that's how we ended up, like we just went to the Mickelson Trail together, because we kind of, had that alike interest. And some people, I've talked to a couple people, and in fact, I shared once on the newsletter that the first time I went to do the Pi Ride, I drove up, I saw all these people I didn't know, and I drove away. And I wrote about that, and quite a few people have commented and sent me a message and says, thank you for saying that, because that's how I feel. I feel like I don't know anyone. And so, in terms of myself, I kept trying. I went to the meetings, I met more people. And it is sometimes, it's a stretch and people don't want to do it, but it helps to, a lot of people don't want to ride alone. And that's one of the really good benefits about riding with a club, is that you don't have to ride alone. We can ride with you. We'll make sure, particularly on our club rides, that you're not going to be stuck alone, or you don't. I have a good friend that I see on the trail all the time. She doesn't know how to change a tire, and I was like, how can you be out there and not change a tire? She's like, somebody's always nice and fixes it for me if I need to. But she's out there at night too sometimes, and so I don't know. But I've told her, gosh, if I came across you, I could help you change your tire.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the benefits of having like an experienced club member.
Right.
Is that
right.
And there's many times I'll be riding by and somebody will say, do you have a pump? Do you have this? Do you have that? Sure, I do. So we can help.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that anybody will find when they join a club and they go on the organized rides. And Peddlers also has not only the Thursday one, they have a Saturday morning ride, I believe.
Right, yeah, it meets in Elkhorn.
Yeah, and that goes various places. So there's some regular rides, and they got different people that join those particular rides, but it is what you call a no-drop ride.
Right.
So you wouldn't get dropped. There's also people that have tools, if you don't have them, to help address kind of things that happen on the ride. And most often the things that happen are flat tires.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
that's probably the most common. I've had one. In fact, a couple of years ago I had so many that people didn't want to ride with me anymore. I think I had a dozen in one year.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I haven't had any flats this year.
Yeah,
So
here's some wood.
yeah, I really. But one of the people that does the Rusty Spokes, Kenny Demon, I hear he has a foldable saw too. So if you're out and there's a tree limb down, he can help you with that too. So
Yeah. Well, and I've added certain tools to my repertoire based on what I've learned from other riders.
Yeah.
CO2 cartridges.
Exactly, yeah.
And a pump. I still use a pump. I
Yeah.
carry a pump along, because in terms of changing a flat, a lot of times putting in a new inner tube, you want the pump to just get you inflated, and then the CO2 to get it finished, and that'll get you home. The other things that you learn about, like I had an issue about 3 weeks ago. Picked up 2-inch screw in the back of my
yeah.
tire. And luckily it didn't go through the sidewall, and it was on my e-bike, so I had a wider tire. But I ended up putting in a new inner tube, but it was fun trying to do that on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And then, fixing it. Well, the tire wasn't destroyed, but I had to boot it.
Yeah.
And to boot it means to take and put some sort of patch in there. And if you're out on the road and you're not knowing what to do, this is one of the things I've learned. Some of the people told me, well, if you got a dollar bill, take and fold the dollar bill because of the paper. It does help take and prevent the inner tube from going through any kind of slashes or cuts that might be on a tire.
I did not know that, yeah.
So,
Well, what's so cool about the cycling community, mostly in Omaha, is that a lot of times you can, if you break down, somebody will help you. I mean, most of the time. I think there's maybe only a couple of riders that I've heard that have not been very perceptive or very helpful. But there's been times where, I think one time I was out riding and something happened. I don't remember what it was, but a couple of women stopped to help me because I couldn't get home, and they help me with whatever the problem was. And that's just a really neat thing about the cycling community, is that they're so helpful. And that's definitely true on Brand, when I've done Brand.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Yeah, so on Brand, there's many times, like if you stop to take a drink, are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine, just taking a drink or something like that. But yeah, the Peddlers does help Brand in many ways. Since I've been the president, I help with the Brand committee.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing that a lot of people may not realize, the connection between the Omaha Peddlers and Brand. There is a direct connection on that.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've already got most of the ride planned for next year, and we're just looking for the town to help us, to make sure that the towns can accept us and stuff. But Brand is, it's an incredible lot of fun, and
when will the announcement party be?
It's probably going to be November, October,
Okay.
Probably November, I would say. But the Peddlers, Brand, all of these rides. This is one of the reasons that I volunteered with the Peddlers too, is that all of these rides will go away if we don't have help, if people don't come in.
And that's one of the things that the Peddlers. There's nobody that's paid.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a volunteer organization.
Exactly.
And, volunteer your talents.
Yeah.
It might be just a small part, like you said, doing the newsletter, just communication.
Well,
but
and
it always helps.
That was pretty helpful to me too, because for many years I worked nights, and so there were times where I couldn't go to the meetings, and so that way I could sort of write the newsletter and still work my full-time job and so forth. But definitely, there's lots of talents that we need, and not only just the Peddlers, but Brand. And so, just in my time, and I know probably you, there's so many rides that no longer happen. I mean, I can remember went on the Pete's Century years ago. The Owl Ride. I mean, these are all rides that went away.
Yeah.
And even, but I'm not sure the current status of the Wear Yellow Ride.
Yeah, I don't know either, and that's kind of iffy right now.
I mean, and it's you can't really blame the people. I mean, everybody needs to kind of move on, but it's the volunteers that we really need. So
yeah, no, that's very, very, very important. So I know that the Peddlers have been around for a long time. There's a good number of members. Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
And they're not all on each ride. I mean, that's one of the things, is it all depends upon the particular ride and their the availability. So, but most of them are all open to anybody.
Exactly,
so even if you're not a member, it's a way to explore the club and get to know them a little bit better.
Well, and that's like with the pie ride. If you we obviously would accept anybody who wants to come, but you just pay a little bit more, and it's not even that much. I think it's like $5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's certainly well worth it. A lot of people that really love pie. I had to grow to like it.
And that's a fairly flat ride. Okay, it's over mostly in Iowa, if I remember.
Yep.
And you're going around in the flatter part. Yeah, there might be a little diversion up into a hill here or there and the less hills, but
depends the distance you want to go.
Yeah, it depends upon the distance, exactly.
Yeah,
there's some that like to ride for the miles.
Yeah. So miles and the pie. So
yeah.
And it's good pie.
Let's see. There's also a member family picnic that you do. And I don't think we covered that at all.
Right, there is a member family picnic that usually happens in June, and that's actually at the end of the Wabash, or part of the Wabash. It was, actually I couldn't do it this year because I was out of town. But it's really good. You know, we have a lot of, I think, I don't know, it depends. You know, the weather is always the greatest factor in terms of how many people are going to show up. And this year, like the pie ride, we had fabulous weather, so we had a ton of people. And I don't really know. I think we had maybe, I heard like 10, 15 people came to the member family picnic, and that's because I was out of town. But and luckily, Kim and Doug Shirley both said that they would help with that. So
okay, that's good.
But,
okay, yes. No, I remember doing some of those rides. So anyhow,
well, I am. You know what?
is there?
I was going to say I wrote a thing
Okay.
for the newsletter, and it's
Okay.
actually on my blog. I am a writer besides a biker.
Okay.
And so I thought I wrote a piece about why I love long distance biking.
Okay,
I thought I'd
good.
just read you a couple of those
Sure.
paragraphs, and maybe,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people might appreciate that. And I'm not going to read, I mean, I didn't read the whole thing, but anyway, so I wrote.
Well, if you give me a link, I'll make sure that it gets
Okay.
added to the
All right.
website.
So, and this is mostly like long distance biking. You pass lots of cows and horses, windmills, farmhouses, dilapidated barns, and broken down homes, ghost towns and thriving little communities, dairy twists that serve you through a screen window. You can feel the air conditioning inside while they take your order and hand you a dipped ice cream cone or a malt. You talk to your fellow bikers. When you leave, call to your new friends, have a good ride. There's always the way they say it, because they know it too, they feel it. That rush, that joy. A good ride is like no other. A good ride is a great ride. That's why we do it. To tell your fellow biker, have a good ride, is the same as saying, have a good day, have a good one, peace be with you, my peace I leave you. You see things up close. That includes roadkill. Look away and keep riding. You hit a hill, not just any hill, a whopper, so start planning. Going down a hill, you feel giddy inside and maximize the force. Hunker down low and sail that wind. Sure, you're riding a bike, but you're also sailing and flying all at the same time. The force carries you up a wee bit, so start pedaling. With any luck, you won't have to pedal to make it to the top. Force yourself up, and then lo and behold, another hill awaits you, and you do it all over again. Occasionally you meet a guy dressed in overalls. He has a toothpick stuck in his mouth, and he takes a long drawl and asks, "Now, did you do the whole thing?" "You bet I did, mister. You bet I did." The first time I did Bran, I spoke to a lady on a Thursday. "You sure look tired," she said. This was when my hands were numb and I hadn't had much sleep all week. I nodded yes, I am tired. And then I started to cry. She apologized and said she was sorry it had been so rough. "You don't understand," I told her. "It's almost over." And I think that just like totally captures a lot of what happens is that, you know, there's just like this, and one of the things about long multi-day rides is that this is all you got to do is ride your bike. When I ride my bike in town, I got to go home and mow the lawn. I got to do the dishes. I got to get ready for work. But on a bike ride, this is what I tell myself, this is my job. I'm just going to ride my bike today. And that's totally cool then.
Yeah.
Because any day on a bike is better than no other day at all.
Well, and I always said too that a bad day on a bike beats a good day at work.
Exactly, yeah. You're exactly right, yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's one of the things that I do enjoy. I mean, I just like getting out, and I've got probably more bikes than most people, and you tend to, let's say, accumulate. It's called N+1 in the cycling community. But
Actually, I have my when I bought my road bike, my brother was kind of like, "Well, how much you spend on that thing?" He was kind of giving me a hard time, and finally my mom said, "You know what? She doesn't drink. She doesn't do drugs. She doesn't smoke. She, you know, she has a good job. If she wants to spend her money on her bike, what's it to you?" So I was like, "Yes, Mom." You know?
Well, and that's one of the things as a parent, you should probably get your children involved in cycling, because then they'll never have money for drugs.
Yeah.
But seriously, I know that when I started, it was probably 2017 when I actually got a road bike. It was after I had shown up on the Saturday morning ride, okay? And it was going up to Fremont, leaving from Waterloo, and it was 40 some miles, okay? Average speed, 10 to 14 miles an hour. Oh, I can do that, I can do that. I had a Trek 7100 Comfort Hybrid. I've been riding it for years, okay? And I had done the Corporate Cycling Challenge, 40-mile Tour de Fort, okay?
Right.
So I figured, oh, I can do this. I show up, everybody in the parking lot has got a road bike. And I've got this Comfort Hybrid where I'm sitting up high. It's got lousy gearing. It weighs about 35 pounds. Okay, and you don't understand what you're all about. So that's when I started, I got a different bike. Then I added another one. Then I wanted to ride during the winter. Well, the road bike doesn't work in the winter. So you have to get one with fatter tires. And so you start getting more bikes. But I enjoy riding all of them.
I know,
You just, there's an exhilaration. We are connected on Strava, so we can see each other's rides. And you know, I saw that you did the Wabash weekend, 50-some miles one day, 50-some miles back the other day. I'm going, yeah, I could do that, but you know, I'm going, oh.
And that was, I have a really heavy bike. I call it Old Blue, and that thing was really heavy, and that's why I was like, I really got to get a lighter bike. And I have tried. I have the same thing. I have 6 bikes. And I just got another one, and it is much lighter. And so it's got a carbon fork, they said. So, and that was much better when I did the Mickelson. In fact, when I look at my stats on Strava, it said the first year, of course I was also sick. I had a bad cold. It took me like, in one section, 55 minutes. With a new bike, it took me 37 minutes. So, and I wasn't sick, so. But that definitely makes a big deal.
Yeah, it does. And the different bikes, and that's where you learn by riding with a group, with other people. You can ask them about their bike and find out about it. That's what I ended up doing, so that I ended up buying a road bike. Now I've got a different road bike, okay, because I've changed. But anyhow, I appreciate you coming on to the show. I really encourage people to check out the Peddler's website. That'll be on the link here too. And until next time, I want you to pedal on.